Right here in this very moment, as you take in these words, I invite you to expand your imagination. Imagine a version of yourself that already exists in a parallel reality. This version of you is not chasing, not hoping, not endlessly striving toward the dreams that keep you awake at night. They are already living those dreams, embodying them as daily truth, breathing in the life you wish for as if it were the most natural thing in the world. And the great mystery is this, that self is not separate from you, not a distant fantasy, not an unreachable star. They are reaching across the subtle fabric of quantum reality, extending signals, sending breadcrumbs, leaving synchronicities that call you home to your potential. That is why these words have found you today. Not because of luck, not because of some algorithm, but because consciousness itself is communicating across timelines. This is what quantum mystics call coherence. This is what scientists describe as the eternal now, where every possibility exists simultaneously. Think of it this way: your awareness is not confined to linear time, no matter what you were taught in school. At the deeper level, your intuitive self, your higher knowing. Your expanded consciousness is moving in a field where past, present, and future collapse into one eternal present. Right now, in that dimension, your future self, the one who has broken through fear, the one who has found clarity, the one who lives in alignment with truth, is influencing your present moment. How many times have you felt it already? That book that appeared in your path at just the right moment, the conversation with a stranger that delivered exactly the message you needed, the piece of content that felt like it was speaking straight to your soul. Those are not coincidences. They are synchronicities. They are the fingerprints of your future self. They are the way coherence makes itself known in ordinary life. They are proof that your higher timeline is reaching through the veil to guide you. But here is the turning point where most people miss the miracle. They experience these signs, but then they explain them away. They call them accidents, coincidences, or simply lucky timing. Worse, they acknowledge the sign, but take no action, slipping back into their old identity, their old patterns, their old story of limitation. Yet the truth is far greater. Your future self is not only sending messages, they are transmitting an energy signature, a vibrational code, a frequency that is available for you to embody right now. And the moment you begin to live from that frequency, even before your outer circumstances catch up, the timelines collapse. The illusion of separation dissolves. The life you desire begins to organize itself around you because reality cannot resist the coherence of identity. I know this not only as theory, but as lived experience. I remember a morning when I sat in meditation, exhausted by the repetition of my life, frustrated by the endless cycle of the same thoughts, the same struggles, the same limits. And then it happened. Not as a thought, but as a knowing, so deep it vibrated in my cells. I felt the presence of another me, the one who had already transcended, who had already dissolved the chains of limitation. His calm was absolute. His certainty was unshakable. And in that instant I realized something profound. Transformation is not about becoming someone new. It is about remembering the highest version of who you already are. It is about removing everything that is not authentically you. That future self was not a stranger. He was simply me, without fear, without distortion, without contraction. From that day I understood that my only task was to embody his energy here and now. And this is why the quantum field does not respond to desire alone. Wanting is not enough. It responds to identity. It reorganizes itself around coherence. It mirrors back who you are, being not what you are wishing for. When you start speaking with the confidence of your actualized self, walking with their posture, making choices from their consciousness, the external world reshapes itself. This is also why affirmations so often fail. Most people repeat words while still radiating the energy of doubt, fear, or scarcity. They try to convince their old self rather than step into their new self. But your future self does not need convincing. They already know. They already embody. They simply exist in coherence, and coherence needs no persuasion. So, how do you strengthen the signal? How do you tune your awareness so the transmission of your future self comes through loud and clear? It begins with radical honesty. Your expanded self exists in alignment, thoughts, emotions, and actions moving in harmony. There is no split between what they want and what they believe. They have collapsed duality. Every time you live divided, wanting wealth but acting in fear of scarcity, longing for love, but choosing distrust, you create static in the channel. The signal becomes distorted. But every time you choose coherence, love over fear, expansion over contraction, trust over control, the signal strengthens. The communication becomes undeniable. You step closer into resonance. Ask yourself with courage, where are you hiding when you should rise? Where are you choosing fear when love is asking for you? Where are you shrinking into comfort when growth is calling? These are not minor choices. They are the calibration points of destiny. Every single decision either tunes you closer to your future self or further away. And here is something extraordinary. Your future self remembers this exact moment. They remember you sitting here hearing these words, feeling the spark of recognition, realizing the choice before you. They also remember what you did after. Did you dismiss this as too idealistic and sink back into the old story? Or did you recognize this as the cosmic nudge you had been asking for and decide to live differently, embody differently, choose differently, because this is the fulcrum moment. This is the crossroads of timelines. This is the second where everything shifts. The expanded you is calling with clarity, inviting you to embody their frequency right now. Not tomorrow, not someday, but here. The question that remains is simple. Will you keep repeating the old story, or will you finally collapse the distance between who you are and who you are destined to be? Remember, your future self already exists. The only task is to embody them now. Receiving the message is never the full journey. It is only the opening door, the first half of the equation. The other half, the one that transforms your reality, is embodying the message, living it through your choices. Your future self can send you infinite signs, synchronicities, and reminders, but unless you rise to meet them with action, they remain only whispers in the wind. Embodiment means you don't need to change your entire life in one dramatic leap. It begins with micro-choices, small shifts made daily from the energy of who you are becoming. When you wake each morning, you can ask yourself, how would my actualized self move through this day? And then honor that guidance even when it feels unfamiliar, even when it challenges the comfort of your old identity. Perhaps your actualized self would speak truth in a meeting where you once stayed silent. Perhaps they would invest in that course book the trip or finally have the courageous conversation you've been avoiding. Or maybe their action is simpler, treating themselves with the love and respect they know they deserve. Small choices may seem insignificant in isolation, but when lived consistently, they create quantum leaps. Reality responds not to sporadic effort but to coherent energy lived daily. Your future self exists in a reality where what you now desire is natural, effortless, expected. They are not trying to manifest anything because they already embody the realization that they themselves are the manifestation. They understand that the external world is nothing more than the mirror of the internal frequency. Change the frequency, and the reflection changes with it. This is the scientific law of resonance expressed in spiritual truth. This is why gratitude is such a potent force in quantum alignment, but not gratitude limited to what you already hold in your hands. True gratitude is for what is already yours in the quantum field, what is waiting for your recognition to collapse into reality. Your future self does not operate from hope or longing. They vibrate with gratitude and certainty. When you learn to generate those same feelings now, you collapse. Distance pulling that timeline into your present moment. Close your eyes and feel into that self. Don't analyze it, feel it. How do they carry their body? What energy flows through their voice? What is the texture of their inner dialogue? That isn't imagination. That is real-time quantum communication, the GPS coordinates pointing you toward who you are becoming. The more you embody this frequency, the more undeniable reality's response becomes. Opportunities arise seemingly from nowhere. The right people appear in your path. Resources you once thought were scarce begin to flow. It is not that the universe suddenly noticed you. It is that you tuned yourself to the frequency where your desires already exist. Your future self does not hustle, force, or push. They magnetize through coherence. They know that everything they need is already streaming toward them, and that their task is not control but clarity, openness, receptivity. When you live in constant stress about the outcome, you block the very flow you are trying to summon. Patience, therefore, is not passive waiting. It is active faith. It is trusting the perfect timing of your life while showing up every day as the one you are becoming. Your future self knows that timing is not delay, it is preparation. Every moment between now and the full embodiment of your vision is refining you, strengthening you, teaching you to hold the weight of your manifestation with grace. And so right now, I invite you to pause and make a declaration. Speak it into the field, anchor it with your words. I am receiving the transmission. Don't type or whisper it mechanically. Feel the resonance behind it. Recognize that when you declare those words, you are signaling to the quantum field your readiness to align, to embody, to remember. This is not mere entertainment. This is transformation. Every declaration you make with sincerity becomes a coherent frequency that your future self can amplify. It is like tuning a radio. Each word clears the static. Each intention sharpens the signal. And never forget this truth: you are not late. You are not behind. You have not missed your chance. Every experience of your past has been preparation for this exact threshold. Every challenge shaped your resilience. Every setback refined your clarity. Every moment of confusion deepened your hunger for alignment. From the vantage point of your expanded self, there is perfection in the journey you cannot yet see. Even the detours were course corrections guiding you toward coherence. This is why your future self is not worried about you. They are not anxious. They are excited, because they know you are on the brink of remembering something extraordinary. But remembering alone will never be enough. Integration is everything. Knowledge without embodiment is an echo. Your future self does not merely understand these truths. They live them. They integrate wisdom into action, and that is the path now opening before you. Your future self has already learned how to move through this physical world while holding a multidimensional perspective. They no longer make choices only from logic, fear, or conditioning. They listen to intuition first, and then they ground that intuitive nudge with inspired action. This is why, as you begin to feel the transmissions of your expanded self more clearly, you must be willing to act on the guidance even when it doesn't make sense to your current identity. Often, the path they reveal looks sideways or even backwards from the limited vantage point of your present self. But they see the entire map while you can only glimpse the next step. To follow this path is to practice radical trust. It is to trust yourself at a depth beyond what your conditioned mind has ever known. This is the recognition that you contain wisdom greater than what your surface thoughts can grasp. Your future self is not separate from you. They are you in a state of remembrance, the wholeness of your being awakened. And I wonder if you pause to reflect, can you recall a moment when you felt them guiding you? Perhaps it was an intuitive nudge that led to something beautiful, or a choice that seemed illogical, yet proved absolutely right. What happened when you trusted that deeper knowing? Each of those moments was more than coincidence. They were transmissions from your expanded consciousness, breadcrumbs left along the trail of your highest timeline. And here is the beauty: when you embody this understanding fully, you do not only transform your own path. You become a transmission for others. Your presence becomes a signal. Your very way of walking through the world awakens remembrance in those who cross your field. You become a living reminder that transformation is possible, that reality itself can be navigated from a higher octave, that we are all infinitely more powerful than we've been conditioned to believe. If what I share resonates in your system, if you feel a stirring that recognizes these words as truth, then I invite you to subscribe not only to this channel, but to this frequency. Subscribe to your own highest self. Subscribe to trusting the intelligence of your becoming. Subscribe to being part of a collective remembering. When you press that button, it is more than digital interaction. It is a declaration. It is a commitment to remain in the conversation, to keep receiving the transmissions that guide you home to yourself. Because this is not just about videos or words. This is about a collective awakening. It is about a community of beings choosing to embody their fullest potential. Your future self lives in a world where the state of consciousness is not extraordinary, but normal. A world where decisions are made from love rather than fear, where collaboration replaces competition, where everyone understands that we rise together or not at all. Every time a single person awakens to their true nature and aligns with their highest self, they add strength to the morphic field of possibility for all of humanity. And this is why your personal transformation matters. It is not selfish. It is service. You are not just shifting your own destiny, you are contributing to the baseline evolution of human consciousness. Your future self exists in a timeline where enough people have made this shift that a new reality is anchored. But it begins here in this present moment. It begins with you, with your willingness to not only receive the transmission, but to embody it. So let me ask you directly, what would shift in your life if you fully trusted that your future self is guiding you? How would you live differently if you knew that every intuitive spark, every synchronicity, every sudden recognition was a breadcrumb leading you to your highest timeline? What if you stopped waiting for external permission and began honoring the permission already given by your expanded self? What if you stopped searching for proof outside and started becoming the living proof inside? The very fact that you are here, feeling resonance with these words, sensing this possibility, is the confirmation you've been asking for. Nothing more is required. Your future self remembers the exact moment they stopped doubting and began trusting. They remember when they finally realized they didn't need to figure everything out. They simply needed to follow the guidance one step at a time. That same opportunity is before you now. There comes a moment that your future self remembers with absolute clarity, the moment they realize the path to their dreams was never about forcing, controlling, or endlessly striving, but about aligning and allowing. That moment is not some distant milestone. It is not waiting for you years from now. It is here alive in this very second. Not when you feel more ready, not when you've organized your life, not when you've mastered every lesson. The turning point exists right now. This is the moment your future self recalls as the instant everything began to shift, because you chose to align with the frequency of who you really are. The quantum field is always listening, always responding, always reflecting back the dominant frequency you carry. When you dwell in lack, fear, and limitation, you inevitably meet circumstances that echo those states. But the very moment you begin to embody abundance, love, and possibility, even before external reality offers evidence, your world starts to bend around you. Reality does not wait. It reorganizes the moment coherence is generated. This is the law of resonance, a principle found in both physics and mysticism. Vibration meets vibration. Frequency answers frequency. Your future self understands this at the deepest level. They are not shaped by circumstance, they are the shaper of circumstance. They do not wait for conditions to improve so they can feel aligned. They generate alignment from within and watch as external conditions recalibrate themselves to match. This is what it means to become a conscious creator. This is what it means to awaken as an infinite being temporarily playing the human game. Your future self is not hoping the universe will grant them a favor. They know they are inseparable from the intelligence that spins galaxies, orchestrates seasons, and opens every flower. They know they are not apart from creation, they are creation in motion. And the same truth is alive in you right now. Not someday when you are more advanced, not when you achieve greater clarity, not when you earn spiritual credentials. In this moment, you are already the very intelligence that your future self has remembered themselves to be. The difference lies only in integration. It is the degree to which that remembrance flows into your daily choices. Integration happens moment by moment, decision by decision. Every time you choose trust over control, love over fear, expansion over contraction, you synchronize more deeply with your highest frequency. With each act of alignment, coherence strengthens. And here is the miraculous effect as coherence builds. The channel between you and your future self becomes crystal clear. Guidance becomes obvious. Synchronicities multiply. The whispers of intuition grow into undeniable directives. It is as though a radio station had always been broadcasting, and now you've tuned the dial to receive it without static. Your future self wants you to understand that nothing is missing. You are already receiving everything you need. The flashes of inspiration, the sudden opportunities, the people who arrive unexpectedly, all of these are not random. They are signals from the universe responding to the expanding signal of your consciousness. Yet, to receive them fully, you must say yes. Yes to opportunities that intimidate your current self. Yes to guidance that does not always follow logic. Yes to action flowing from the self you are becoming rather than the self you have been. This is where faith transforms from abstraction into practice. Faith is not blind belief. Faith is the willingness to move from a knowing that exists beyond current evidence. Your future self embodies this faith effortlessly because they have seen how reality bends when you align with your truth. They know the universe is not testing your worthiness. The universe is reflecting your frequency. Raise your frequency and new realities open like doorways that had always been waiting. It is not about earning, deserving, or proving. It is about aligning. And alignment is not a one-time achievement to be maintained forever. It is a returning, a moment-by-moment choice to come back to center, to remember who you are, to choose again from love instead of fear. Your future self has cultivated the ability to return quickly when they wobble to recover alignment as naturally as taking a breath. They know that missteps are not failure, but rhythm. They know that turbulence is part of flight. This is why self-compassion becomes an essential practice. Harsh judgment creates interference. Criticism clogs the signal. The more gently you treat yourself, the more purely the communication flows. Right now, in this very moment, your future self is transmitting absolute acceptance for where you stand. They are not frustrated with your speed. They are not disappointed with your progress. They see perfection in your timing because they perceive the vast pattern that you cannot yet glimpse. They know that every relationship, every job, every heartbreak, every victory has been weaving itself into the tapestry of your awakening. Nothing has been wasted. Every experience has been training your nervous system, expanding your resilience, refining your vision so that you could hold the power of remembrance with grace. What we've touched here is only the surface of a far deeper system of consciousness mastery. If you feel resonance stirring within you, it is because your field is recognizing truth. There are master frequencies ascending currents that move you from survival static into luminous coherence, from seeking to becoming the broadcast itself. And this is what your future self has already embraced. They also want you to know something liberating. Transformation does not have to be struggle. The heaviness you have felt is not proof that the path is hard. It is the sensation of swimming against the current of resisting the flow that is carrying you anyway. The moment you stop resisting and begin allowing, you discover that the current was designed to deliver you home. The moment you stop resisting the intelligence of your own becoming and start cooperating with it, life begins to flow in ways you once thought impossible. This doesn't mean that challenges vanish. What it means is that you develop a new relationship with them. Instead of experiencing them as heavy obstacles, you begin to see them as invitations, as stepping stones into expansion. The question shifts from, "Why is this happening to me?" to, "How is this serving my highest evolution?" Your future self has already mastered this perspective. They have learned to interpret each event as feedback from the universe. When life moves smoothly, they recognize it as confirmation of alignment. When life feels dense or difficult, they don't see it as punishment, but as information pointing toward refinement. All of it is guidance. All of it is part of the awakening process. When this awareness starts to stir inside you, you realize it is not random. Resonance is never accidental. It is the signal of transformation awakening in your system. That is why it's worth going deeper into how this quantum communication system actually functions. Because once you understand the mechanics, everything about how you navigate reality changes. Your future self exists in what quantum physicists call a collapsed wave function. Out of the ocean of infinite potential states, they have crystallized one reality into being. And here is the profound part: that crystallized version of you becomes like a gravitational field, pulling all other potential selves toward it. Imagine an infinite sea of possibility waves, and within that ocean your future self is an island that has stabilized. Every choice you make, every decision you take, either carries you closer to that island or drifts you farther away. But the island remains constant, broadcasting its signal across the field, sending out beams like a lighthouse that you can learn to navigate by. These signals don't always arrive as clear thoughts. More often, they come as sudden feelings, intuitive nudges, energetic surges in the body, or shifts in emotion that appear without explanation. This is because your future self communicates through the language of energy, a language not bound by linear time. When you feel an inexplicable excitement about a path that doesn't make logical sense, that could be your future self signaling the way forward. But here is where confusion arises. Many people assume that following guidance from their future self will guarantee a smooth and effortless road. That is not how evolution works. Your future self is guiding you to your highest potential, not your greatest comfort. And that path often requires stepping through fear-releasing attachments and growing beyond familiar boundaries. Your future self remembers every moment of discomfort on their journey. They know the courage it takes to act when the outcome is uncertain. They feel deep compassion for the stage you are in now because they lived it themselves. But they also know that each challenge is not arbitrary. It is precisely calibrated to grow the strength, the clarity, and the capacity required to sustain the reality they now embody. They are not sending you struggle. They are helping you recognize that growth opportunities have always been woven into your life. Resistance only multiplies suffering, while acceptance opens the door to transformation. When you fight against your experience, you argue with the intelligence of your own evolution. Your future self no longer wastes energy resisting. They learned that every single experience was a servant of their becoming, even when they couldn't see the bigger picture at the time. And from that awareness comes something profound: quantum gratitude. Your future self doesn't just practice gratitude for good circumstances. They embody gratitude through all circumstances. They are not thankful for what life did to them, but for what life did through them. They remember they were never victims of randomness, but participants in their own divine orchestration. This shift changes everything. When you start seeing through this lens, you notice patterns you never saw before. Events that felt meaningless suddenly reveal purpose. What looked like detours turn into redirections. That job loss was not rejection, it was realignment. That breakup was not failure, it was completion. That financial challenge was not punishment, it was recalibration. From the vantage point of your future self, everything fits, everything serves, everything is perfectly placed. It is like watching a film for the second time. On the first viewing, events appear confusing and disconnected. On the second, you see how every scene links together, how each moment is necessary for the ending to unfold. Your future self is watching your film for the second time. They already know how it all comes together, and that is why they ask you to trust the plot, even when you don't understand the scene. But trust in this context is not passive. It is not waiting on the sidelines for destiny to arrive. Trust is active participation in your own unfolding. It is saying yes to the intuitive nudges, yes to the opportunities, yes to the invitations to grow, even when fear whispers otherwise. And perhaps most importantly, your future self has learned to distinguish between two types of fear. One is the fear that protects you from genuine danger. The other is the fear that confines you, keeping you small and bound to outdated versions of yourself. Your future self has mastered the art of discerning the difference. And each time you choose to step beyond the second kind of fear, you move closer to the island of your actualized self. This is the essence of alignment, a willingness to cooperate with the intelligence of your own becoming moment by moment, choice by choice, until coherence turns possibility into reality. Your future self has developed the discernment to feel the subtle but powerful difference between an intuitive warning and the resistance of the ego. This discernment is essential because as you begin to receive stronger transmissions from your expanded self, you will be called to make choices that your current identity might interpret as unsafe. The ego, programmed to keep you predictable and protected, will create endless logical reasons why you should not follow the inner guidance. It will whisper, "Be practical, be realistic." Don't raise your hopes too high. But your future self lives by an entirely different set of assumptions about what is possible. They know, through direct experience, that the universe is inherently supportive. They have proven to themselves that the resources, opportunities, and pathways always appear when needed. This is why they make decisions from abundance, not scarcity, from possibility, not limitation, from love, not fear. And here is the paradox: the more you act from the frequency of your future self, the more you begin to inhabit their reality. You are not pretending to be someone you are not. You are remembering who you have always been beneath the layers of conditioning. Your future self is not someone you must strive to become. They are who you are when everything inauthentic has been removed. This shedding of what is false is what mystics for centuries have called the dark night of the soul. And your future self wants you to know this dissolution is not punishment, not failure, not evidence of something gone wrong. It is the natural chemistry of transformation. Think of the caterpillar dissolving in the chrysalis. At first, it feels like disintegration, like the end of everything familiar. Yet that dissolution is the prerequisite for wings to form. In the same way, parts of your old identity must break down before your true essence can emerge. Your future self remembers how destabilizing this process felt. They remember nights of doubt, seasons of confusion, moments when nothing made sense. They remember feeling like they were losing themselves completely, but now they understand they were not losing themselves, they were losing the false self that was never real. This is why spiritual teachings often speak of dying before you die. It is not about physical death, but the death of the ego identity that masks your true nature. Your future self has walked through this death and resurrection. They have shed layers of illusion, and what emerged was luminous authenticity. They want you to know that what is waiting on the other side of dissolution is infinitely more beautiful than anything that gets left behind. And this process does not happen in one dramatic moment. It unfolds in cycles, in spirals, in waves of increasing depth. Each time you align with intuition instead of logic, another veil lifts. Each time you choose expansion instead of contraction, another shell falls away. Each time you act from love rather than fear, another fragment of your true self shines through. Your future self exists now in a reality where this process is complete, where their life is lived in coherence without the static of false conditioning. But they want you to know that the journey itself is sacred, not just the destination. Every breakthrough matters. Every recognition, every choice, every step into courage is precious, because it all contributes to awakening. And awakening is never just personal. Your future self understands deeply that individual and collective consciousness are woven together. As you raise your own vibration, you ripple that resonance into the entire human field. As you embody authenticity, you make it easier for others to do the same. This is why your transformation carries meaning far beyond your private life. When you heal patterns of fear, you are healing not only yourself, but also the threads of limitation carried by your family, your community, your culture. When you awaken to love, you amplify that love for others. Your journey is a contribution to the awakening of the whole species. Your future self holds this truth as both a responsibility and a sacred honor. They know that each human who chooses to embody their potential strengthens what scientists like Rupert Sheldrake call morphic resonance, the field effect that makes transformation easier for everyone. It is like carving a path through a dense jungle. The first traveler must struggle to cut through vines and thorns, but once that path is cleared, everyone who follows can walk more freely. Your future self is both the traveler and the trailblazer. They walk as part of a collective of awakened beings holding space for humanity's next leap. They are not isolated individuals. They are strands in an interconnected web of consciousness that transcends time and space. And when you begin to embody the energy of your future self, you join this collective. You step into the movement of evolution itself. But understand this journey is not about perfection. It is not about spiritual superiority or being better than others. It is about authenticity. It is about shedding what is false, choosing what is true, and cooperating with the intelligence of life that has always been guiding you home. Your future self has no interest in hierarchy or comparison. They are simply an expression of what it means to live in remembrance, and that remembrance is calling you now. Your future self has discovered that true spiritual maturity is not about escaping your humanity, but embracing it fully. They've learned to walk with infinite compassion toward their own process and toward the processes of others. They understand that each person is exactly where they need to be in their own unique journey. And because of this, they hold space for all beings to awaken in their own timing, without judgment, without pressure, without force. This compassion extends to you in this moment. Your future self gazes upon you with love, with acceptance, with appreciation for your courage to grow. They remember every struggle, every doubt, every moment of confusion you are facing now, and they want you to know that all of it is not only acceptable, it is necessary. It is the perfect unfolding of your consciousness. As these realizations integrate more deeply within you, your relationship with time begins to shift. Your future self does not experience time as a straight line from past to future. They exist within what mystics and quantum physicists alike call the eternal present, a state in which all of time is contained. This is why communication across timelines is possible. From their perspective, there is no distance, no delay. There is only the now, a vast moment that contains every potential. When you learn to access this eternal now, everything changes about how you approach your dreams. Instead of imagining your goals as distant achievements, you begin to recognize them as frequencies already present, waiting for you to align. This shift transforms manifestation itself. Instead of forcing outcomes into existence, you begin allowing them to emerge. Instead of struggling and efforting, you soften into receiving. Instead of pushing toward your desires, you dissolve the blocks that have been obscuring them. Your future self has mastered this art of conscious receiving. They know the universe is always offering exactly what is needed, but they had to develop the sensitivity to recognize and receive those offerings. And that sensitivity does not come through analysis. It is cultivated through presence, through feeling, through sensing, through attuning to the subtle energetic information always flowing through the quantum field. This is why meditation contemplation and practices of inner stillness are so crucial. They refine your ability to perceive the field, to sense the frequencies that point you toward your highest timeline. But meditation for your future self is not limited to sitting cross-legged in silence. They live in constant meditation, a state of openness, receptivity, awareness in every moment. They have trained themselves to read the energy of situations before engaging them mentally. They can feel the alignment of an opportunity before they even understand it logically. This is what could be called quantum intuition, the capacity to sense the energetic potential of different paths and to follow the one that feels most expansive, most alive. To cultivate this level of awareness requires a radical slowing down. It requires space between stimulus and response. Yet, in a culture addicted to speed noise and perpetual doing, slowing down can feel like falling behind. The conditioned mind insists that stillness is a luxury you cannot afford. But your future self knows the opposite is true. Inner stillness is the most practical state you can embody because it is from stillness that inspired action is born. When you act from this centered state, you accomplish more with less effort. You move with the current of universal intelligence instead of against it. From this stillness, decisions become clearer and faster because intuition is no longer drowned out by second guessing. Opportunities arrive more effortlessly because your frequency is coherent, clear, and magnetic to what is aligned. Your future self wants you to know that coherence is not about never wobbling. It is not about holding perfection. It is about consistency. It is about returning again and again to your center. Even if you drift, even if you forget, you remember and return. That is coherence. That is alignment. And from that rhythm of returning, your future self's guidance flows into your awareness like a signal broadcast across the timeless field of now. Your future self has come to understand a profound truth. Consciousness is like a muscle, and the more you exercise it, the stronger it becomes. Every time you choose presence instead of distraction, alignment instead of reaction, love instead of fear, you are strengthening your capacity to live from your highest self. This is not an abstract philosophy, it is a practice. Each small decision is a rep in the gym of consciousness, expanding your ability to hold greater frequencies of awareness. So, I ask you, what is one small choice you could make today that aligns you more deeply with the energy of your future self? Speak it into the field. Declare it. Sometimes voicing an intention amplifies its power, sending ripples through the quantum field that accelerate its manifestation. As your connection to your future self strengthens, something extraordinary begins to happen. You start to receive transmissions not only from that expanded version of you, but from the entire spectrum of your possible selves across countless timelines. You begin to touch what quantum physicists call the akashic field, an infinite information field that contains the wisdom of all your potential identities. In this space, you might feel bursts of creativity as though flowing from a version of you who became an artist. At other times, you might access analytical clarity as if drawing from a version who became a scientist. Or you may be filled with waves of compassion that echo the heart of a healer self in another reality. These aspects are not separate. They are facets of the same diamond of your multidimensional being. Your future self has realized they are not one fixed identity. They are a fluid, dynamic expression of infinite possibility. They no longer confine themselves to a narrow story about who they are. Instead, they live in remembrance that consciousness is infinitely creative, able to access any quality, any wisdom, any gift that already exists within the quantum field of potential. This does not mean they have become someone else. It means they have remembered they were never limited in the first place. That same remembrance is available to you right now, not as something you need to earn, but as something you can choose to step into. Every decision point is a portal. Every breath is an opportunity to align with your infinite nature. To access this expanded self requires what mystics call beginner's mind. It is the willingness to approach each moment fresh, uncluttered by the weight of past conditioning or the projections of imagined futures. Your future self lives in this beginner's mind because they understand that consciousness is an engine of continuous creation. They do not assume they know how something will unfold. They remain open, always ready to be surprised by the infinite creativity of existence. And this openness is not a passive naivete. It is the secret to living in flow with the quantum field. Because if you cling rigidly to a fixed image of how your life should look, you may miss the magic that is trying to break through in spontaneous opportunities and synchronistic encounters. Your future self has learned to hold their vision lightly. They remain clear about the essence of what they want, the feeling, the vibration, the state of being, but flexible about how that essence is expressed in form. They know the universe is more imaginative than the human mind could ever be. When you demand control over the how, you narrow the infinite channels through which your dreams could arrive. But when you focus on the essence and then surrender to the unfolding, you allow manifestations to appear that surpass your wildest imagination. This is why your future self does not worry about the mechanics of manifestation. They have learned that their role is to clarify the what and the why, what they want to experience and why it matters to their soul, while trusting the universal intelligence to orchestrate the how. This trust is not passive waiting. It is active participation in co-creation with the cosmos. It looks like showing up wholeheartedly to the opportunities that arise. It looks like taking inspired action when intuition whispers. It looks like maintaining coherence even when outer circumstances have not yet caught up to inner alignment. Your future self embodies this paradox, patient with the timing, urgent about the frequency. They understand that the only thing truly within their domain is the vibration they hold. And as you begin to embody more of this energy, the very concept of future starts to dissolve. You realize that what you once called your future self is not separate from you at all. They are simply a more integrated version of who you already are in this eternal now. The wisdom, the clarity, the love, the power. It is not waiting somewhere ahead of you. It is here latent in the field, accessible the moment you align with it. Your journey, then, is not about becoming someone new. It is about uncovering the truth of who you have always been. The person you seek is not a distant possibility. It is a present reality in the quantum field of all possibilities. And with every choice you make, every breath you take, you either draw closer to that reality or drift away from it. The power has always been and will always remain in your hands. The choice is always present, always alive, in this very moment. And before we close, I want to invite you into something profoundly powerful. In the comments below, I want you to write a single word, just one word that captures the energy you are choosing to embody from this moment forward. Perhaps your word is trust. Perhaps it is alignment, maybe courage, maybe flow. Whatever arises first in your awareness, honor it. By writing it, you are not just sharing a thought, you are imprinting an energetic signature into the quantum field. You are declaring to your future self that the transmission has landed and that you are ready to embody it fully. Understand this, the more of us who make this conscious choice, the stronger the collective field becomes for everyone. Each individual declaration strengthens the resonance, amplifies the coherence, and creates a morphic ripple that supports the awakening of countless others. And if these words have stirred something in your soul, if you feel the recognition of truth vibrating within you, then I invite you to subscribe. Not merely to consume more content, but to remain aligned with your own becoming. Subscribe as a living act of commitment to your highest evolution and a symbolic gesture that anchors your choice to awaken. Every person who chooses remembrance contributes to the great shift. Your transformation is not just yours, it is a gift to the world. Your awakening becomes the catalyst for the awakening of others. Your courage to embody your highest self gives silent permission for others to step into their own light. This is the sacred reciprocity of consciousness. And so consider returning to this transmission each morning. Let it recalibrate your frequency before you enter the world of tasks and demands. Let it remind you of who you are and why you are here. And if someone in your life could benefit from remembering their own quantum nature, share this with them. Sharing expands the field. It multiplies synchronicities. It accelerates not only their transformation, but your own, through the resonance of collective awareness. Your future self is so proud of you for listening, for being open, for entertaining the possibility that life can be lived another way. They remember this exact moment. They remember when you finally understood that you do not need external permission to become who you were always meant to be. This is the moment that marked the beginning of everything shifting. The transmission is complete. The signal has been delivered. Now it is in your hands to embody it, to live it, to become the walking proof that transformation is not a myth, but an inevitability for those who choose it. Your future self is not waiting with impatience, but with infinite love and complete certainty that you will arrive. The only question that remains is simple yet profound. Will you answer the call? And as you step into embodying this quantum identity, remember this. Most people struggle with manifestation not because they lack knowledge of these principles, but because of the voice within. The observer voice, the narrator of your reality, is either reinforcing your limitations or broadcasting your freedom. Learn to shift this inner dialogue from unconscious programming into conscious creation. Because what you speak to yourself inevitably becomes what you see in your reality.